Let's just call it a deal a month. My average deal on commission wise is 15, I would say probably 14 to $15,000, which would then put me around that 170, 180,000 mark GCI just in the ads. Someone doing that kind of business is a top 2% realtor. So
For
that's
sure.
fantastic.
You just heard it straight from Thomas, one of our private partners with Lead Gen Pros, who's now generating roughly $10,000 per month in GCI from our YouTube seller lead system. In just 6 months, he's on track to close 6 deals and ultimately scale this up this year to add an additional $170K in GCI, all from inbound pre-qualified YouTube seller leads. No cold calling, no chasing, just YouTube ads done right, where sellers come to you already knowing you, liking you, trusting you, and ready to talk business. And now that Thomas sees the ROI, he's already planning to double down, aiming to push past 500K in GCI with our help and the power of YouTube ads. And here's the craziest part. He's doing this in what other realtors are calling a slow market. So if you're a serious agent who's tired of relying on referrals, burning cash on junk Facebook leads that never convert, then this video is going to show you what's possible when you plug into a system that actually works. Let's jump right into the interview.
So Thomas, just to kick us off here, man, tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm a real estate agent. Name's Thomas Skublak. I've been a realtor almost 3 years now. Started out in Hamilton, did a lot of Hamilton, Burlington, Grimsby area. Just moved out to Oakville, trying to do some rebranding for this area over here just because it's a higher market.
Nice.
But yeah, been a real estate agent, love meeting new people, and I've loved doing it ever since I started.
Yeah, for sure. And I know one of the things, Thomas, that when we started working together on YouTube ads now, you had tried a couple things in regard to, I believe it was Facebook ads or just online lead generation. So tell us maybe a little bit about what it was that you tried in the past and what your experience was with that.
Yeah, super flexible and open on new marketing. So, when people reached out regarding Instagram and Facebook leads, tried out with 2 previous companies. Nothing bad to say about the companies. The people were great. I just felt like the leads weren't as good and promising as I anticipated, especially for the the money that I was spending, and I just kind of felt like it was a lot of leads, but they weren't high quality, and there wasn't a lot of traction moving forward. That was my my results from the Instagram Facebook lead gen.
And that's what it was that you tried. You went Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, so I did Instagram, Facebook with 2 different companies.
And when you say quality wasn't great, how do you mean exactly? Like in terms of quality, was it like the type of conversations, they weren't picking up the phones? Like what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so one was just overseas contacts, which is kind of weird because we're trying to target people in the demographics. So it's people
local
outside of Canada, which is not going to work.
Yeah.
And then most of the time it was either people being like, hey, like I thought I just clicked on something because I was going to get something and I wasn't expecting a call, not interested. Or it was fake information, whether it was name, address, sometimes even the phone number. So those were my experiences with those kind of leads.
Gotcha. So what would you say the biggest problem was with those systems? Was it then lead quality?
I think that there's just a little bit of a different demographic on those platforms. And yes, lead quality was definitely lacking.
Right. And in relation, and this is kind of an interesting question here, just to give you some context, when you had a lot of leads, but there are a lot of low quality leads, a lot of realtors that come to us when we work with them is like, okay, the leads are low quality, but I'm wasting a lot of time in terms of my follow-up and the effort related to actually seeing a return. So in your experience, what kind of problems did dealing with low quality leads actually pose on you and your business?
So what I realized is going the Facebook and Instagram route regarding leads, although it turns out to be, half or a third cheaper than the Google YouTube realm, the leads that come in, there's more quantity for sure, but like not even close to the quality. And what I realized is that, even though you're spending less money to get more people, you actually get a hold of less people on the final number, and your costs end up being a lot higher on Facebook, Instagram before you actually close something, even though your acquisition is a lot lower.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. So what a lot of realtors, when they come to us, is like, okay, like Aaron, what's the lead cost? I'm getting $3 leads or $5 leads, and it's like, great. What is your cost per acquisition? How much money do you have to spend to get a new listing, a new signed deal under contract, right? And usually when we did Facebook ads for 4 years, and as part of our process, our top of funnel metrics talking about like lead costs, like that was really good. But when it came to the bottom of funnel of how many actually end up closing, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And that's why we switched to YouTube, right? Where YouTube gave us that better cost per acquisition, despite the front end metrics being a little bit higher, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's kind of what I've experienced with the different companies that I've worked with over the last 3 years as well.
Yeah, for sure. So if I may ask, Thomas, maybe a selfish question for me, what was it that kind of attracted you to work with us specifically after having maybe not the best experience with a few other companies prior? Like you didn't give up. You were like, hey, I'm gonna keep going at this. So what was it that maybe had you attracted to us specifically?
It's not necessarily giving up. It was just more so, I want to find something that if I'm going to pay for it, I want it to work, right? So
Right.
the biggest things for me when I do business with people is one, are they good people, personable, which, I don't like tooting anyone's horn. You've been fantastic the whole time.
Thank you.
However,
Oh.
other than the personable aspect, it also has to make
Right.
sense financially, right? Like if I'm going to
For
be
sure.
pouring money into my business, I'd expect it to have some sort of return where
Yeah.
both of us are happy. You're compensated for the
Right.
work that you do, and I'm compensated because I'm spending the money for you to do your work, and then I have to do my work in order to close on those deals. So,
Right.
having that conversation with you initially, giving you a try, just because I'm very open to giving people a chance. And if things don't work out, things don't work out. I wish them the best, and it is what it is. But having someone in that realm that understands everything on the back end, which you've been fantastic for, the YouTube and the Google aspect, has really grown the business for me. Not on the referral or your standard ways of getting leads, door knocking, word of mouth, and an advertising aspect. You're more so on the
Right.
back end social end, which
Right.
I wanted to grow, and you've definitely taught me a lot of things in the process and helped me grow as well. So
Right.
that's one of the reasons why I ended up using you guys, and I gave you guys a shot, and I've been on ever since.
Yeah, you stuck with us. Now you're still here, right? So maybe chat a little bit about. Firstly, thank you for the kind words. Not tooting my horn. I'm here all day, so I'll hear it all day if I could. But in terms of maybe the results you've gotten with us so far, tell us a bit about that. What that looks like in terms of deals closed so far. Maybe what the pipeline's looking like, or what it's kind of shaping out to be in the coming few weeks or months here.
Yes, so we've been working since January 1st is what I'd like to say. So we're in 6 months now. Obviously, in this business that we're in, there's longer sales cycles than if you're selling a car or selling something else. So I understand
Right.
it does take time. Up until this point, we're firm on one deal. We have one currently listed under contract, and there's 4 or 5 in the pipeline that I anticipate to be coming in the next month or two.
Right.
And obviously, that kind of works its way out as a deal a month, which is
Right.
ideally the goal.
Yeah.
And having everything optimized and working the way it should be. Obviously, we've done a lot of tweaking along the way.
For sure.
But it's been good that we've both been on top of it, transparent with each other, getting
Yeah.
everything done that needs to be done by both parties. And I couldn't be happier, honestly. Like a deal a month is
Yeah.
what I wanted, besides the word of mouth and all of the referrals, just
Right.
as an added value to my business. Because at the end
Right.
of the day, the more money you put into the business, you anticipate the more money you get out of it. And this has been a
Right.
perfect example of that. That's kind of off hands for me. Obviously, I have to make
Right.
phone calls and do all that stuff, but I do that
For
anyway.
sure.
So
For
having
sure.
someone doing that for me in the back end has just made it a lot easier and freed up my time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of about 6 months, you'll see it shaping up to be about a deal a month,
Yeah.
roughly, right? Give or take.
Yep.
In terms of if we kind of stretch this out to say a 12-month time frame or 1 year, how do you kind of see this having an impact on your business?
Definitely positive. I mean, anytime that you put $1 in and you get $3 out, $4 out, $5 out, I would pay 50 grand to have that money come back, right? And I
Right.
think anyone would if they were capable of. So
Right.
being able to put that money in, knowing that, if you follow all the steps and you do all the work, you're going
Right.
to get rewarded for it. That has definitely changed a lot in my business, and it's definitely grown as, as an not word of mouth referral type of business into more of a marketing business as well. That
Right.
portion of my income for the business has grown and will grow over
Right.
that 12-month period, as opposed to last year when I wasn't doing this.
Yeah.
And everything was, me going, meeting new people, networking, word of mouth, that type of situation, right? So,
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah, and you mentioned something interesting though, right? You mentioned referrals and your kind of your sphere a few times, right? And I think a lot of realtors, again, who we work with, they're very reliant on their sphere and their referrals, and they're kind of at the mercy of the market, right? Because they don't have a predictable, consistent, and reliable way to bring in new business. So do you see your business getting more predictability or more consistency over the next, say, 6 months?
Absolutely. And that's the other thing I wanted to touch base on is, especially in the market that we're in now, in the area that I'm in right now, the market is probably the worst it's maybe ever been, and they're anticipating it's supposed to get worse. So a lot of colleagues that I have that, I work with or don't work with or, met somewhere, their biggest issue is right now is that they don't have business coming in because the market's so slow. This has kind of tweaked that for me specifically, although I am busy besides the leads coming in, and I'm very grateful for it. This is an added thing that also adds to my business, and it's a different way of marketing for the first thing, and the second thing is keeping busy during a bad market, and I can only imagine the benefits of doing this right now during a bad market that'll have once the market corrects and gets better.
There you go. Market gets better and you still have that deal flow going.
Exactly. And then, that's kind of when I feel like it's going to start rocketing up, and that's the goal, which is why,
we scale it up from there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what would you say, another selfish question I'm going to ask, what would you say you love the most about the program?
I think the biggest thing that I love about the program is the mentorship on the aspect of something that I don't know what I was doing beforehand. So, the guidance that I had to get uncomfortable in front of a camera, mind you, I was somewhat comfortable, but, you do scripts, you do videos, you start doing the organic and inorganic side where you're out of your comfort zone and don't really know how to approach it properly. I think that's definitely grown. It also makes it a lot more personable when you finally do get to meet someone that comes in through the leads. And it takes that edge off of that, like that initial meeting, because they've technically already seen you online, and they wouldn't have called you if they don't think good things about you. So that for me is the biggest benefit, and just being comfortable in front of a camera. Like at the end of the day, this is kind of where we're going. And if you're not comfortable in front of the camera, it can be a lot more difficult than someone who is and isn't comfortable, right?
Oh, for sure.
Everything.
Everything. If you're not on video, you're already behind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one thing I wanted to touch on super quick, and I wanted to get your opinion on, because you have kind of a unique perspective of, hey, I've ran Facebook and Instagram ads, and as a company for 4 years, we did it for a long time, right? How would you say the lead quality has kind of varied, or how is it different from, say, Facebook or Instagram compared to, say, these YouTube leads?
So Facebook, Instagram, in my opinion, super cold. I wouldn't say it's as cold as door knocking. It's a little bit warmer than that. But, it's someone who just clicks on something randomly on Facebook, which you see ads pop up for everything, whether it's buy this, sell this, take this, do this, and all that stuff. I would say it's warmer than a door knock, but it's still not something where it's like, hey, Thomas, I seen your video type of thing. I wanted to sit down and have a conversation about this. Whereas the YouTube and the Google side, which they're integrated, so I don't know why I keep saying both, but on that aspect, every time I have the conversation and I just say like, hey, I'm the guy that you just saw on YouTube with my spiel at the beginning, they go, Thomas, great video, nice seeing you. We wanted to sit down and talk about this. So in regards to hot, I would say it's probably almost as close as someone saying a nice thing about you that you have dealt with to someone else and they give you a call. That's what I would give it as a relativity standpoint and how hot a lead is. But it's not as hot as a family member selling a house, because that
referral quality is the hottest. But you're saying 100%. It's like maybe it's right below that, that.
100%. So just below that makes things a lot easier when you sit down with them and finally meet them.
Okay, cool. No, I'm glad to hear that perspective, right? So if we're maybe just to take a step back as we kind of wrap things up here a little bit, is in terms of running the system for the next 6 months, or say you're running it for a year, how do you see this system adding to your business in terms of GCI? Where do you see the ultimate return kind of coming back to you?
The ultimate return for me is if I'm happy if I'm getting 3x my money on it, right? That's kind of where I've been. So if I'm spending, let's do a nice round number, 30 grand, and I make 90 grand off of it, I'm very happy. And now that I know that the system works, the next year, it's like, okay, instead of spending 30, I'm willing to spend 60, and let's see where these numbers take us. So exponentially, someone who's done $200,000 in a year, I'd anticipate that this is going to build my business up to $500,000, which is, the first initial goal. And then once that gets pushed through, obviously new goals are made. So I'm hoping to hit that 7-figure mark, of course. Having baby steps on the way is always, a good thing.
Nice. So the goal ultimately is 7 figures. Now, in terms of, let's just to make this tangible for anybody watching to say, hey, like Aaron, what kind of return can I really expect here? If you're to run this system, given that we're 6 months in so far, you have maybe the 5-6 deals kind of in the pipeline there. If we're to round that up, say 12 months total, where do you see that kind of having an impact on your GCI in terms of the return back to you?
So 12 months, let's just call it a deal a month. My average deal on commission wise is I would say probably $14,000 to $15,000, which would then put me around that 170,000, 180,000 mark GCI just in, the ads that we expend. So, if that's the case, then of course I'm more than happy to put more money into it for the next year, but that's the number
for sure,
that it's looking like.
Right. And that's not a small number. That's nothing to sneeze at, right? That's almost 200K in GCI back.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like someone doing that kind of business is a top 2% realtor. So that's fantastic, right?
For sure. So maybe one last question I'll ask you, Thomas, as we kind of wrap up here. If you were to imagine there's someone here watching this video, or they're sitting with us today and they're on the fence and they're like, Thomas, like I'm considering this program here, but I'm really skeptical. I've been burned before. What would you maybe say to that realtor today?
I would say that, you have to go with your gut and what you want to do. Obviously, it's never cheap to do something that's marketing, right? But if you're capable and able to, and you're someone who feels like, I come from a sports background. If I do something, I'm going to do it to my full potential. And, if the results say that if you do everything as you should, you'll get the results that you're supposed to. I'm a big advocate on, taking it on, trusting your gut, and just kind of pushing through with it and see what happens. But definitely something that you need to add on, especially in this world that we live in now, for marketing purposes and lead gen. Like this is what I think it's going to become in the next 4 or 5 years. So being able to have all that organic side of it all the way back to 4 or 5 years from now, when it's actually, I think, going to hit a new all-time high, is super important for someone who's just getting into the business. Of course, all your traditional realms work as well, but you also want to be, well-rounded in everything, just so that you have different value propositions that you can give to clients that potentially decide to use you or not.
For sure. That's amazing. So if you're on the fence, you heard it from Thomas himself, ladies and gentlemen. If you're on the fence, oh man, it takes money to make money.
Yeah.
Right.
And you also have to look at it this way. It's like when you're at the gym, you don't see the results right away, right? A little bit of work every single day, and then you start seeing it after a couple months. And then after those couple months, a little bit more work, and you see more results after a couple months.
Yeah.
I feel if you treat it the same way, like there's no downfall in definitely taking it on and just trying something different.
And that's a great analogy to give, right? Especially with you from a sports background, like that's a great way to look at lead generation. I think the reason why so many realtors fail with lead gen is, number one, maybe not the right vehicle, the right systems in place. There's a lot of reasons why people might fail, but one of them is not giving it a valiant effort on a long enough time horizon to actually see the return. So I want to commend you, Thomas, on being patient, and you really understood that from the very get-go. You were like, hey, I understand this is going to take some time, and here we are, 5-6 months later, where it's like, hey, now that the deals are coming in, it's consistent, there's that deal a month, that's kind of, what we're tracking for now, and I want to commend you for that, man, because I think a lot of realtors don't have that long-term mindset that you have, right?
I feel anything that you do over 12 months kind of gives you a guide of whether you want to push through with it or not, and I think that's a good timeline. When you're trying new jobs, 3 months is a good timeline. If you'll hate it after 3 months. But in something that you don't fully understand, if you do it for 12 months and just kind of see how it goes, I think that's the best timeline for someone to have to actually decide to move forward with it or just stop doing it in general.
100%. You're totally right. I want to commend you on a few things, Thomas, because I know we've had a lot of one-on-ones in terms of the organic side, in terms of the coaching, the video scripting, but I wanted to shout out your YouTube channel super quick because we've coached, probably close to 100 plus realtors on the organic side exclusively, and so many of them don't actually take action. So I want to just plug your YouTube channel where you make content specifically in relation to living in Hamilton. So if anyone's watching this, you want to check out a good example of the type of content to create, where Thomas has good brand coherence. His stuff's very congruent in terms of his titles, his hooks, his thumbnails. Thomas did a really good job there, so we'll go ahead and plug your channel in the description. But anything you want to add, Thomas? Either plug in your channel, anything that you want to do or say as we wrap up here?
No, I appreciate, anyone who's going to take a look at the channel, but also I wouldn't have been able to have it without Lead Gen Pros. So if you guys are going to take something on in the marketing aspect, it's a fantastic route, and I would always recommend.
Hey, thank you, Thomas. It means a lot, brother. Thanks so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Check out Thomas's channel linked in the description, and we'll see ya in the next one.
Thanks, guys.